Hello students, Professor Peter Gregory here. I'm going to cover this list of items about writing reports for my classes. I've been refining this over a number of semesters here. What I'm going to do is make that a little larger so you can see that in this video. The topic of this video is going to be items covered in this video. I have 14 things here. There might be plus one or two of these as I go along. There might be something that I typically look for as far as quality goes in a report. And remember, the entire value of writing this report accrues to you. I'm trying to help you develop a good style, be able to use a report to really gain at your place of work as far as esteem and credibility, hopefully as far as the position rank that you have there and the leadership position and everything else that you might be looking for. And I've increased the importance and focus on writing each semester as trying to get a good balance of actual content versus a significant portion of the courses that this applies to rely on producing enough information that your final report is going to be good and interesting and actually present yourself very professionally. Okay, so let's start with this is going to be done in um, Microsoft Word as normal. That's one of the requirements for my courses, that you deliver text documents in MS Word. Don't use PDFs or Google Docs or anything else. And that, otherwise, it's inconsistent with my ability to be able to credit you with things that are good in your document and review them and leave the notes in there that are helpful to you in the long run. For any one of the classes, this artifact of work from the class should be something you'd feel very good about presenting to somebody else and say, I'm earning my degree, one level of business or another, and this is a piece of work that I'm pretty happy with. I actually did a lot of work on it, and the quality of this really reflects where I can go. And you should be pushing the envelope here for yourself so that you're getting into things that you might not have done before. You can also bring things that you've done into this document, but that's not necessary. But if you're used to maybe even a higher level of format that I present here, just keep to this format and be careful of over investing in making the document look too pretty, because you have other courses and you have a career to manage as well, right? So the first thing that we're going to do is I can do right from the screen. And we go to Microsoft Word. We go to the options. We want to turn on and view a lot of the formatting characters that take place on screen. So if you go to options and we'll go to display, what you want to do is click off show all formatting marks. And you're going to get things like anchors, paragraph marks, spaces, tab characters. They're the ones that I use most often. I have no use for hidden text myself. Optional hyphens I've never really encountered. Maybe I should look at that, but it's nothing that really ever affected me. So on this screen, all you want to do is click show all formatting marks. And now these will appear on your screen. Try this for a while. Try this for your final report. The reason I do this is it gets you out of trouble. Sometimes when the document is misbehaving, the formatting marks tell an awful lot about what's going on. One of the items that gets shown when you turn this on, there are other things than what on this list. Okay, I'll show them to you when we get there. The only other thing you need to do is go to advanced, and I think you need to come down about a page worth of controls here. So you can disregard the editing options. Come down to forget copy and paste for this. All right, and when you get down to here, there's another item similar to the first screen that we looked at, show document content. And I recommend turning on show crop marks. Everything else here is in default. The only thing I ever touched in here was show crop marks. Okay, so I recommend before you get going or as you get going, you set this up so now you can see marks on the screen. Even as we started the video, you might have noticed that these are your crop marks up here, these little L's. They're really, if you think about them, they're like kind of like a pointer to the extreme upper left corner. This is like a pointer to the extreme upper right. Okay, and we have a and what ends up happening is that these also indicate where your footer area is. Your footer area is anything below these crop marks, and your header information is anything above there. To get into the header and footer, you can go to either the header or footer, double click really fast like that, and you'll notice it grayed out the main body, and now I'm able to edit up here in the header area. Generally, you would put the name of your document perhaps up here, and maybe the date, something like that. Okay. From this screen, we're going to go over, I'm going to flip back over. I just double clicked here into the body. We're going to go over to an actual live document I'm going to provide you. It's a bit of a template, and there's a number of things in there that we can use. Okay, so we turned on viewing the control characters. Let's go take a look at what a cover page looks like. So let's come over here. If you notice, I already have my document up here at the top named with my 2-digit ID number, my name, and then whatever the final report is. Actually, this should be clear. It doesn't have to be consistent from student to student. Generally, if I provide a document to you, you can end up just using that file name and prepending onto the beginning of that your 2-digit class ID number that you were assigned at the beginning of the course and your name, and that should look like what your document name looks like. So here we are on the cover page, and this is another control that you really want to know about and be able to see these page breaks. You really want to be able to see them. They're a really great way for controlling how your document looks. Very powerful here. This is the simplest of all simple presentations or cover pages here. I have tiny text here. Let's blow this up. Let's say this is a report for XYZ company. You can come up here to the text control, and you can just use the up arrow till you get something that looks pretty good. All right, now see that's way too large, so you can come back over here, up in the up left, decrease the size of the font, something like that. That's your discretion. Just try not to be too ugly. Try to make it look pretty. I don't judge on style too much, but I mean, if it's really abhorrent, I'll probably make some kind of snide comment in your review, okay? Don't go out of your way to try to exact one of those comments from me either, all right? But basically, you could say this would be the name of the company sometimes that was doing the report, a little bit more information, and the date is always very helpful. And generally, in a cover page, we'll have contact information down here. Now, what you'll notice is I used text boxes. Every time I click in here, you can see that there is a text box. The way you get that, and I think they're great for controlling where text goes, instead of using what most students and even many professionals use, is they come in on their cover page. They've never really gotten used to using a text box, which you can put anywhere. It controls text very well. And what do most people do? They go onto the first page and they hit enter a whole bunch of times like this, and then they either space or tab over, or they can use, go to home menu like this. You can center text, and you can do final report like such, right? This is far less controlled than by using the text box. So I'm going to Control Z, which is undo, and undo everything here. So we get back to this point. And now a text box you get by, you go to insert and you go to text box. There's a number of ways that you can enter your text box, but I'll just cover one here, is draw your text box. Okay, so when you do that, let's see, you come in here and you can actually draw it. You draw it with your cursor like such. And if you notice, the one that I just put in here actually has a border around it, and that's the default state of that, okay? Now, the latest versions of Word, if you carefully move it, you'll notice a green line appear there, so you can center it. So I'm going to, generally look for center. These are all little things that contribute to very professional-looking paper. So that green line tells you that you're centered there, okay? And then you can type in here, and you can also put screenshots in there, which we'll talk about later. And the way that you can, if you care to, play around, go into formatting this. You can go into format the shape, and it will give you all kinds of controls over here. You can fill it with color, you can fill it with patterns, you can do all kinds of crazy things there, but crazy is the operative word there, and generally clean is better, okay? So for the sake of this document, don't go too crazy with that, but I recommend that if you have a few extra minutes, experiment and understand what the latitude you have with dimensions or attributes of, excuse me, with the text boxes actually are. Okay, so what I did to get rid of the border is I right-click it here. Let's see if I can get it. And I can click Outline. So this is kind of a fast menu compared to the one up here in the upper right. So I'm going to go to Outline, and I'm going to click No Outline there. The box is still there. I can still type in it. See, it's still there. If I click outside it, deselect it, it's just sitting there. And all these controls that you normally have for text still are available. You go to Home, and I can center that up, just like that. And that's how I got the box above there. I just wanted to show you how you do that. Throughout your document, I would suggest you use these to put your exhibits into the document, okay? So I'm going to click that and delete it. Just wanted to show you why that is so nicely controlled. If I grab it and fidget with it a little bit, I can move it up and down a little bit, but I get that centered green line. At other times, you might want to be right justified right to the clipping edge here, and you notice that it will show me the left edge. See the left edge green shows up? It says I'm aligned perfectly to the edge when that green light shows up. But for something like this, we want it centered. We got to find it again. You just kind of hunt around for it a little bit, and you can make your fine tuning up and down, okay? So I did the same thing. There's a text box down here, okay? And I had hidden the border on there. And the wonderful thing about this is you can really just move these anywhere you want. Now, one major feature, I'll cover it right now, is this little control box that pops up here, which they've made very convenient. It used to be you have to go through the menu system to get at this. You just click this. This gives you control as how text behaves around here. And there's only two settings that I ever use. And that would be the one down here is the one I use most often. Top and bottom means the text. If you take this and put it into a big paragraph, that the text will come down to the top of the top of the box, and then it won't go around the box. There's going to be no text flowing around the edges of it, and it will continue below it. And most of my figures are large enough to give you an idea. Most of them are something large like this, where you wouldn't really want any text over here on the right. When it gets this big, generally you want to center it like this. Okay, so that's the option that says top and bottom. Don't let the text flow side to side. The only other one that I use is I go right above there, and if you click square, I can get that the hot key here. You can see it pops up. It says square. What that means is that if you do have some free room on the edge of it, that the text will flow very closely to it. I'm not going to go any more into that to demonstrate it. It's kind of neat, but if you practice for yourself, take a big page of text, a solid page of text, and drop one of these boxes into the middle of it, and then adjust how you want text to flow around it. That is a very good professional advancement activity to try to make a better document. But as you can see, I can move it now with this anywhere I want. Get a lot of control that way. So that is a nice cover page. Notice no header or footer information is showing. Okay. Now the second page will be a table of contents. If you use headings, 2 levels of headings I recommend. Usually you only need 2 levels of headings in your reports. You can automatically complete the table of contents, which is the first thing here. Okay. Now notice we come into the table of contents. From page 2 on, we're going to have a header in here. And we could just, I'm going to double click in here, and I'll say that this is our final report, right? And I can delete this out of the way, and if you care to, you could type in a date. So you have a little working room above here in the heading. And when you're working in the heading, you should see that under design, we have some special ribbon commands that we have. And you'll notice I have different first page selected. If I deselect that for a second, I'm going to come back in my document. Okay, back in my document. If I go back to the cover page, now we don't have a different first page. That's what that does. Okay, so I'm going to go back in there, double click it, and now I click that back on again, and you'll notice it says I'm going to treat the header and footer differently on the first page. All right. Now the other thing that I have in here is it's hard to see in this section, but I have try to grab it here. I have a horizontal line that I put right across the page, right at the crop marks. And that gives the reader and you visual separation from what's the header and what's the footer. Just that adds a really nice touch to a document. It's just amazing how just a few little things. The way that you get that is make sure you're in the header or footer because we want it attached. We don't want it attached to the body text. We want it attached to the header, right? And the way that we do that is, again, we do an insert. There's a lot of things in these menus that have built up over the 2 or 3 decades that Word has been around. And I just go to shapes and I'm going to insert. You have to pick one to insert. So I picked the line without any arrows on it, and you'll notice my cursor is different, right? And so then I can just start dragging my line around anywhere I want, okay? And that's how I put the upper blue line up there. That's how it got in there, right? So I'm going to delete that. I undid what I just did. I don't want that. And I also put one down here to separate the footer, okay? So down the footer, I put the date here. Have the page numbers. How you put the page numbers is in here is you put your cursor into the footer or anywhere else you'd want it. But here we do the footer. And again, you go back to insert and I want page numbers. And when I click this, I want it right where I have my cursor at the current position. And this is the one that I recommend / require for the course. I think it's the most helpful. It's very technical format. So what we're going to do is specify the format of the page numbers. Is if you just come down like a little bit with the slider bar, the first thing that's out of view that comes up, it says bold numbers, page 1 of 1. Okay, that gives your reader a really good situational awareness of where they are in the document. So if you look here, I have 9 pages in my document, and I'm on page 2. All right, so that's how you insert that. You just click current position, and then as I said, you have to slide down a wee bit and just click the next one that's just off the screen there. That option. I'm gonna hit escape to get out of those commands because I already have everything that I want. Okay, and in our reports, unless directed otherwise, I'm using the one, this is the format for a document for a final report for Kibbe and Strand for either the undergrad or graduate production systems classes. Okay, and so if you're in that class or have taken it, then you'll understand a little bit about this because that report is a big part of that grade. 30%, at the current time, it's 30% in the undergrad course and something like that in the grad course as well. And that's why I'm going so deeply into this, is that it's more than just successfully coming through the simulation and achieving the the precise goals of getting out of your system, getting out of the simulation, so you have your weekends back and you're free again on weekends from all that work, right? But the first thing that after the table of contents that we run into, and I'm going to come back to the table of contents in just a second, right? So if I come in here, the executive summary is really important. This is the most worked over area of your document. It's got to read really well. You got to capture the imagination of your reader. It should have some kind of excitement to it without being hyperbolic. Don't use hyperbole in this, all right? No exclamation points, no fantastical statements. It's not marketing. It's much more subtle marketing. You're going after a very serious, subtle, under control environment where people want to see what you did, especially this Kibian strand where you've saved a company from going out of business. All right. So what I did is this document will be available to you. You can read it here on the screen. You can stop the video if you want and read it. But the executive summary, let's start right at the beginning. I'm using a couple of heading formats. Okay. If you haven't used these before, go to Home. Okay, so we go to Home tab, right? And if you notice, there's this little black dot here, and as I kind of move over it, this little pointer cursor, it's telling me this is a live item within Microsoft Word. Have you ever used any of these styles up here? Well, this is where they come from. Okay, this is where you get these. Okay, so what you can do, these are what I'm showing here are not the stock formats that heading 1 and heading 2. These are the only two in the document that you really care about. Okay, is that you want to set these up. So if you open up a stock page here in Microsoft Word, these will look different. Now I'm going to show you how to edit them. Okay, so you can either have text selected down here that you really want to affect or not. All right, so you come back up here into this styles selector, right? And I'm going to right click on it. And I'm not sure I use anything. Occasionally you might want to rename that just so you know the name of the thing that you created, but I'm not even going to do that. You can remove it and things like that. The one thing that I want to show you, and the only thing that I ever really use here, is modify. Now there's a lot of power underneath modify. When I click modify, I'm just going to keep heading 1 as its name. That's the stock name. Fine. Okay. Now, when you come in from a stock page or a stock document that Microsoft Word fed you, these are not the defaults. So these are the ones that you want to change it to. Times New Roman, size 14 bold, black writing. We want to do left justify. See the left justify there? I'm not sure if I ever touched this other blue thing here. So there's some things in here that you could go crazy with, but not. What I'm telling you is the most basic changes needed. Okay. Now you're not done yet. Probably just keep it for now only in this document. All right. So this means it doesn't apply to all your other files that you ever do. This is unique to this document. Okay, add styles to style gather, that's fine. This little innocuous button down here leads to a lot of control. We're going to click that. So click format and look at all the things that you can change about how you can auto format text. Okay, so we already named the font size that it's going to be bold and black. If you go into font, it gives you those controls. So we already do that. It actually gives them up here at a level above there. Maybe it gives you a few more controls if you're used to using that or whatever else. You have some special needs. You might have to go below this top level, but I always am fine with just using this top level, and this is what I'm suggesting to you. Go into Format, click on Paragraph. Now, when you go to Paragraph, Microsoft Word uses some interesting things here. I'll tell you what, you want to make sure that alignment's left. These are the things that you probably have to look at that were probably not these settings when you take the stock document that Microsoft feeds you. So make sure that in general it's left justified. I don't care about outline level. Indentation zeros. Nothing under special for indentation. Okay, we don't care about that. Mirror indents, no, none of this really applies. Just make sure the settings look like this in your system. Now spacing can have numbers in here. Make them all 0. Okay, and I usually click, and I hadn't already, but I usually click don't add space between paragraphs of the same style. And for our documents, we're going to do 1.5 line spacing. All right, so once you get them set to that, now you're going to have your heading 1 is pretty much teed up. There's nothing else we need to take a look at in here. We're all good for that, right? So we're going to take these changes out here, and that gives you your level 1 heading. Okay, so there's a level 1 heading. It's 14, font size 14, whereas the rest of this text is all 12. Now I've written some interesting guidelines in here as dummy text for the executive summary. So you want to read these. I also will give you the checklist for these things, but I just set this up so it kind of reads and looks like the kind of document that you're producing. Executive summaries never go, for our sake, never go beyond one page. Okay. There's a lot of information in here, and I just went over it. 1.5 space lines, 12 point headings, 12 point, or that should be headings. Let's put in here level 1. Okay. I didn't show level 2. Okay. So when we do get to level 2, I'm going to come down because for continuity here. You have an executive summary. Then you have an introduction. You start using exhibits in here. We're going to get to that. But under profitability analysis, we are going to have subheadings at headings level 2. Okay. And they're going to be 12-point font. So if you can see, pay no attention to this text box. I want to use this later on. I want to show you how to use this to make it look better. So under this level 1, you'll notice that it's smaller font. Okay. And if you notice, it's selected up here. So if I right click on it to edit it, I go under modify, and you're going to see everything. Now the name is heading 2 instead of heading 1. Instead of 14 point Times Roman, we have 12 in there. Bold's checked. That's fine. Here, just to be sure, I'll click black. That matches the other heading setting there. That would almost make no difference at all, the automatic versus the black. All right, so then we're going to say only this document. We're going to go into the format and paragraph. Make sure you're left justified up here. These are zeroed out. The spacing is zeroed out, and you're using 1.5. So there were a couple things in there. Not only that, but I'm going to say there's no special formatting. So there are a couple things lingering in here from where I borrowed it from. So great, you saw how we actually can change the parameters and make it work, right? So now it should behave a little bit better, okay? All right. Let's go back up to where we were. We were reading the executive summary, some of the points here, level 2 for subheadings. Notice the line separators for the header and footer. Show that. Notice the table of contents. I'm going to go back to that because I want to show you the headers 1 and 2, headings 1 and 2 before we go back up there. Table of contents, executive summary should be masterfully reworked to provide the best information in an overview format that fits on one page. That's the whole goal, is you might end up with 12 or 13 sentences in there, and you have to pick and choose what you're going to say. We can work on this for an entire week if we were doing a full real report here to make sure, or a proposal. That's the other thing, is that you need to make sure that the big points are in there, they're worded correctly, it flows well, and you're actually drawing. It's artful writing. You're drawing the reader into this great success that you had. Otherwise, they fall off. They fall out of suspension of disbelief, and then they're very critical of your paper. So you want to create that suspension of belief, if you will, not disbelief. Do not use exclamation points, even though I just used one. That's why I put that in there, because we're not using hyperbolic or hyperbole statements in this document. It's all substantiated. Don't use any exhibits or figures in the executive summary. It's all narrative. Writing styles should punch big items, like your big point first, and then substantiate it. So somebody can skim down and read and say, here's 12 things I was looking for, and they named all 12 of them. This is a good report. That's exactly the reaction that you're after. So an example for the executive summary is an opening statement might be something like the special assignment from Kibbe and Strand Executive Management to attain $25,000 net worth by the end of 30 weeks was successfully achieved. Methods and activities used to attain that success are presented in this report. Okay, so that is an example of a run-on that I'll show you here. We want to come back here. It's a little bit too many things happening. Try to jam too much in too small of a space. So I'll just break it into 2 statements. Right? Now you have 2 statements. Gives the reader a chance to come up for air. You're not machine gunning them too fast at the beginning here. Okay, so a short list of to-dos and not to-dos. This is on my broader checklist that I supply. It's more of the writing techniques and technicalities. These are somewhat ranked in importance. The unfinished sentences, if you read a document and it has an unfinished sentence, like, well, this person didn't even bother, flagrant grammar, or we should probably put in here, spell that right, grammatical and typographical errors are quick signals of no credibility paper, right? So if people start disbelieving it, they're going to move on to the next, and yours is going to go in the circular file. Avoid the use of first person, okay? So should rarely, just about never, or not ever, put into your document, I did this, I did that. It's not like that, okay? You have to find a better way to depersonalize it, okay? And you can take any statement and depersonalize it, okay? So you restate the statement to avoid use of first person. Example, I or we discovered silk garments had low shipping costs due to low weight, right? So better would be just put in there, our analysis or the analysis, showed silk garments had low, et cetera, had low shipping costs, right? Uh, there simply should not be any statements in here that say I think. You can sharpen any statement that begins with I think to just state something and put the substantiation in there, make your point, substantiate it, and especially don't put in I feel. That's horrible. That's like nowhere near professional writing for business of this kind where you want to make big punchy statements. It's all about business. You're hunkering down here and you want to state, very as like the forward guard, you've taken care of things and just want to get a lot of confidence in the reader. Okay, so the same with I think. I feel you should say make a point, substantiate it. Don't use those. Don't use a lot. If you find yourself, anytime you find yourself as you review this doing something like that, it's actually better because the minute you see something that says a lot and you can't put it in there, you have to tease out what the details of that are, and you put that into your report. And your report is 10 times better because you're thinking now in terms of what did I say in sort of slang. A lot is slang, and you're just burying all the detail into slang. That's what happens. Okay, use the occasion to use actual figures, not a lot. No slang or jargon. I can give you 3 or 4 papers about that and how bad it is. It's sort of a pandemic in business as people getting lazy and just throwing slang out there in meetings and in papers. Use the occasion when you find yourself using jargon to tease out the points, sharpen your statements up, just be more specific. And your papers, the level of your paper just got zooming way up high. All of a sudden, you're beginning to think in terms of what or better, not that you haven't, but you're thinking in better terms what the readers got going through their mind. All right, so we'll talk about active voice here. Okay, it has to do with something. The way that I was taught to write originally, I've had to adapt to business writing, and I think a fair amount of some of the ways that I was taught to write seem to include a lot of active, or promoted me to be using active voice. Down below and explain that. Okay, basically it means it gets confusing because you put the subject after the object, and I'm not coming with precision as far as English grammar goes, but this is a big one that you want to avoid. Okay, and I'm just have a really brief link, example and a link here down below. And then up here for this document, it says the rest of this is dummy text and it's the lorem ipsum fill text. All right. Now you'll notice I have a page break here. I don't really need it because if I take it out, the next page is forced to the next line. But if I put a page break in there, I know that my introduction will start at the beginning of the next page. I like that, right? Okay, so here are some more points. Use Control Enter to insert that page break we just looked at. Control Enter or whatever, Command Enter on a Mac to insert page breaks to force information onto a new page and where it is logical to do so. Sometimes it's just your paper deserves a new fresh start on a major heading. Sometimes, okay. Use abundant screenshots in your narratives as exhibits to your reports. You're using them to substantiate these claims, okay. So you go into your wherever it may be and do your screen grabs. For most of what the reports here we're talking about, there is a simulation involved. So you need to go into the simulation and grab some important screenshots. Okay. So I already went through, created text box, and then insert an image into the text box, and then type into the text box what figure number it is. At the bottom of the text box, you can enter the figure name and to which you point your reader while you're writing. Okay, so the figures should be meaningful to your claim and be explicitly referred to and explained in the text or narrative. I always call it the narrative. And then actually, if you look, there's some actual text here, figure A5 1B. All right, A5, I'll turn this to B. Okay, so nobody's confused here. Okay, so figure A5 1B, and I put the whole name of it in there the first time I use it. Yep. And then what you're looking at is the rest of this text here is real report text that's referring to this image. Okay, so it's just an example of how to use it. And if you notice where my text box is, there's a little bit of text underneath it because we have this selected as top and bottom, and it won't put any text. There's no room for text there anyway, so it's a moot point. But sometimes you can do such things as, see, I can kind of trim this in a little bit, but certain things are going to happen all of a sudden. You have to keep your eye on them. They start shifting. It'll start putting lines down below the other parts here. I have to grab that and recenter it with the green line. Where's the green line? Where are you? Come on. It's in there somewhere. That's one edge. It's going to be close to this. Where are we? It's so wide that it's having a hard time. I'm just going to draw it out to the other edge. I was trying to find the middle line. It wasn't grabbing the middle line. So now what I've done is I've just trimmed it in so it showed me the green line, and I'm on the edge of text both sides of that. Most of your figures should be like that, but I tend to cheat myself a little bit, and I pull things out if I really need them into the wing area left and right. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right? Okay, so if you read this text, it's referring to this document or to this figure here, all right, and that's what you should be doing, all right. I wanted to use an example that clearly you wouldn't be confused that I'm trying to do something in this report. This report has to do with a whole other quantitative study, so it just makes things clearer that way, all right? Okay, so if you go through our type 1 headings or level 1 headings, we had executive summary, introduction, and now profitability analysis will also see, it went to heading 1 here, okay? So it's adopted any of those changes that we might have made while I was going through this, okay? And then I showed you that we went through this example here for level 2. So when I click that, we can see that we've assigned that as level 2. And we know that they're live part of the document because they have these little squares and these little arrows show up, okay? You take a look at that and figure out what those mean exactly, but I've never had to worry too much about them. But now I'm showing you a little bit of a mess on purpose, okay? So let's say this so with this text box, it's not flowing very well. Okay, so what's going on is it looks like it's in front of the text. If we come over here and see what it's set up to do, it's on this setting that I don't like at all. It's in front of the text. So we want to click either flow the text around the box, as in square, or top and bottom. Let's go top and bottom on this. All right. Now, it's still not behaving because I want it under fabric material floor. If I click it and I move it a little bit, let's move it back to the center. For some reason, there we go. The center is on this. When I click it, did you notice that the anchor showed up? Let's see if I get this. It won't stay up. Okay, so if I'm holding it, you'll see the anchor over here going away again, right? That anchors it to that carriage. There's a line there. That's a carriage return line feed type of thing in the Microsoft Word document. So these things get attached to some kind of text, and that's where some of the control of this comes from. Notice I've actually got something specific in this text box, active and passive voice. And if you click this doc when you get it, I put the link on the internet. I attached it to the screenshot. I actually took a screenshot. I'll go over there and show you where it came from. Where is it? Over here. I took that screenshot from here. Okay, so the way that you would do that is you use snipping tool, which I never use because I have my own program to do this. So you come in Windows, you come in here and you do snipping. I forget what it is in Mac. It's just a control. It doesn't have a name. It just has a control keyboard shortcut. All right. But on a PC, you get the snipping tool, fire that up, tell it you want a new screenshot, and you grab what you want. This is approximately what I grabbed as a screenshot. And once it comes up like this, you do a Control C. I have a Control C is now on my clipboard. I don't care. I don't really care anymore about being on this page at all. I'm going to go back to my document. There's my document. And I'm just going to show you I can click into document here and Control V. It's going to take it from the clipboard and smash it in there. Whoop, came back again. For some reason, my screen just jumped. I don't really want two of these in here. I was just showing you how to insert a screenshot. So I'm going to delete it again. Okay. The first one has a live link. And if you click it, it will take you to that page to understand what active and passive voice is. I told you we would kind of take care of that later on. And I gave you a couple examples right here. Harry ate 6 shrimp at dinner. At dinner, 6 shrimp were eaten by Harry. So the object is the 6 shrimp, and eaten is the the action verb here, and Harry is the subject. And usually you just write simply. More, it sounds better. Harry ate 6 shrimp at dinner. There is something that I like to do. I mean, as far as writing goes, the part that I enjoy about it is when you take a mangled sentence and you clean it up for understandability, or clarity, or whatever. There's accomplishment in that, and it's an art that you have to develop. You have to know some rules, and that's what this assignment is about. Okay, so what we had shown, I'm just going to come back up to the top and just work our way back to profitability analysis. Let's do some situational awareness. We have our cover page, we have table of contents, and now that I have table of contents in there, I purposely have not updated this yet. Because once I have the table of contents, it's looking at all my heading 1 and heading 2s, and I can say update the table, and I want to update the entire table. Now watch all the text changes because I've radically changed this from the original document that I cobbed it from, that I stole it from. What you're looking at in the table of contents were the previous heading 1s and heading 2s in there, and we've changed it all around, so you should see a big change here. So I click OK, and boom, there's the outline of a paper. You're actually looking at the nice outline here, executive summary. It grabbed all that because we made them headings down here. See, when we made this a heading, it's able to grab that and sort it out and create automatic page numbers. Okay, so we should have a table of contents in there. I deliberately saved that off so we could update it to where we are right now. Should be able to do that. Executive summary, we talked about that already. That's a level 1 heading. Then we have introduction is a level 1 heading with some information there. And then, for the purposes of your paper, you're going to block this out. Look at how are you going to structure the rest of the document? Well, for the Kibbe and Strand people that are doing that, you're going to look at profitability analysis and schedule analysis. If we go back up to use the table of contents as an outline here, you're going to see profitability analysis up here and schedule analysis. And for each of them, walk around the factory floor by floor by floor. Looks like we have to add in a floor here. We're missing human resources out of profitability. So that'll be good. So, you have to figure out logically how to present your information. And for Kibbe and Strand, it's pretty good to just go through all the profitability analysis, what's happening on every floor that you learned about and wrote up and then analyzed. You're writing it up now. Let's go fix this. We're going to go fix this so we can see something happen. I do have it included under schedule analysis. But see, there's two major thoughts, profitability versus schedule. How do we figure out a contract? We're trying to pick a contract, right? And it's based on profitability and schedule. So I gave you, a nice framework to use. And so for each of these subsections, you're going to go in and write about what profitability, factors were happening in that area, okay? And then finally, appendices. This is a nice, clean kit we're looking at. This is a nice document right now. This shows you a nice outline for the Kibbe and Strand. If it's another course we're looking at, then make a good outline ahead of time and figure out how you're going to do that. Okay. So we have executive summary, an introduction, profitability analysis, and we said we have this level 1 here. We have a level 1. Level 2. This one up here is level 1. This is level 2 because it's 12-point font. And what did we say? We were missing a little section. And what I gave you here is nothing to do with, this is a general report information that gives you some ideas about how to do this. Now, one thing, for instance, I see this box is shifted over to the left a little bit, so I'll drag that back to the middle. I just happened to notice that. So before you finish it off, is this in the center? Let's check this one out. Yeah, that was already in the center. The other one got off a little bit for some reason, whatever. So before you finally hand it in, just make sure these things are kind of trimmed in. This next box looks good. Okay, so then the fourth area was marketing, and we're missing human resources after this, and this is a good place to do it. So I'm going to type in here human resources as a title of the next level 2 heading, and when I grab that, I just come up here and I click heading 2, and it formats it the way that we need it. Okay, all right, and then I can just take a little text here. I'll show you. So you can take some of this text as sample text, Control C, and I just put it in underneath here. Okay, now the body type of this text, you can come in here. We want to get rid of these funny numbers here that we talked about before. Left justified. I don't want hanging. I want no special indentation on this, and I'm going to switch this to 1.5 lines. And when I hit OK, it'll snap into a nice format that we have. And generally, you either can or you don't have to tab in the first line. I don't really, I'm not really going to be that tight on this one. Just be consistent. Don't jump around and have some tabbed and not tabbed. All right. So that's how we just inserted some data in here. So if you notice, it's a well-behaved document. And I'm trying to share with you some experience that I have with this. Is that if you set the document up well, the rest of it, especially when you start putting figures like these in here, things start jumping around quite a bit, and you have to have all those indicators turned on to understand why it might not behave the way that you want it to do and the way that you want it there as it is. Okay, so I didn't put any detail in for schedule analysis. That's an example of where this is where you're going to write like a short intro to this section here, but I'm going to write some intro information in here, and then you're going to explain for each subheading in here. You're going to explain some things, insert some screenshots, indicate what figure number they are. So your figure numbers have to increment as you come through the document correctly, and then refer to them specifically by name and for purpose. Try to explain in there why you're showing it. Okay, a lot of this is slowing down. I know everybody wants to get done with this. You have other assignments to do, but a lot of this just has to do a good job is say, Is it yet in a state, if I knew nothing about this project and I received this, would I have any idea what I'm talking about? Okay, that's the acid test to make sure that you're writing to a level, you put yourself in the shoes of a reader that has little or no information. They're using this to learn. Okay, all right. So we have the appendices. An example would be there's 4 appendices for the Kibbe Strand report. You want to show all that profitability analysis in Excel in the appendix. You want to show all the schedule analysis, the timing analysis in Appendix B. You do end of week checklist, start of the week checklist, and all reports from my courses are going to have as their last appendix the Grammarly screenshot, a screenshot of Grammarly once you throw this through here, once you throw your document through Grammarly. So you have to download it. I don't want you to use the web browser plugin for this, because there you have to like scoop all your information up and then copy it over into a window and let it work on it. I want you to submit this file. So you have to install Grammarly, latest version, whatever it is, get that working. Okay, I'm going to hit Control Save here. I just saved my document because I had made some changes. Now I want to throw this through Grammarly. If you notice the name way up here, I put draft. So I recommend that while you're working on it, you put draft in this. And some of you might want to even do little rev levels, like rev 1, rev 2, like save it off in case you need to go back. You yourself made some changes that you wish you didn't, or you need to go back for some information you dropped that could be useful later on. Okay, so name it with the word draft at the end of it. And then I run Grammarly. That's the desktop app. It's available for PCs and Macs. Okay, so I'm running it here. Here's the interface coming up. I ignore it. These are all these other documents I've sent through it recently, but I can import it. I'm telling Grammarly, import a document for me. And let's go to, where did I put this? Okay, here's my document. This is the document we've been working on. Okay, so I'm going to tell it, take my document and send it up to Grammarly. Okay, so the engine for Grammarly is up in the cloud, so it's going to pick this up and then give you something back. Okay, so when you set goals, pick inform. The audience is knowledgeable, is okay. Style is formal. Emotion, mild. Remember, no hyperbole here, right? And then if you wanted to pay for it, you get certain features, but here, what you could do is if you paid for Grammarly, you could actually put it through with another contingency that says run it as if it were business. Okay, but I don't pay for. I get more than I need to from this report. Okay, so I set my goals. You're going to do the same setup and click done. All right. Now, this is the window. I'm going to maximize it here. Double click it. I maximized it here. Here's all my alerts over here. Okay. Here's kind of my report. Okay, but obviously it's kind of mashed up in this Grammarly window because it might not understand everything to do about Microsoft Word. It can't replicate it. I mean, basically, you'd have to rewrite Microsoft Word to make it look that way. So it looks a little interesting, to say the least. All right, when we come in here, it gives me a whole bunch of red buttons here. So let's click the first thing in the right-hand column here. Okay, so headings level 1 are 14 point. So if you notice, I have plural headings, and it has a hard time deciphering what I'm doing here. It's kind of a technical description of a headings level 1. So the headings level 1 are, I don't care about that one. Now, if I wanted to change it, I would click the green thing. It will just change it and go to the next one. This one I'm going to trash. I don't want that one. Headings level 1 are 14 point. That's sort of a toss-up as far as I can read that. No, I just leave that point. You don't use plural when you're talking about point font size. So I'm going to trash that one. So there's a lot of these you can get rid of. Header info and page numbers in. Yeah, I'm going to go with the footer. So this is a thing where I should have put in the word the in front of footer, but I'll click the green and boom, it fixes it for me. All right. Okay. So what else is going on? The methods and activities used to attain that success are. So it had a hard time with this, but methods and activities are plural, so that's why that's plural. Okay, so you can't just say yes to everything. Okay, this is kind of a slangy kind of word, so we're just going to say a short list of to-dos and not to-dos. I want. I didn't complete my statement here. Some are somewhat. Let's see, are somewhat, I didn't finish my statement. This is sort of just a fragment, are somewhat ranked in importance as follows. Like I'm going to come back up here and put as follows, as exhibited. I don't know, something like that. Right? Unfinished sentences and flagrant grammatical, typographical. It doesn't want that space between the word and the slash in this case, but I find I like it this way because it's actually easier to read. When you put the slash in there, I think people don't read the whole thing. It's like reading a one word that's 45 letters long or something like that. So I'm going to get rid of that one. I don't want that one. I want to keep it the way it is. Avoid use of first person. Avoid the use of. No, I'm going to keep it general without the avoid use. Same thing. Avoid use of first person. Again, I don't want to change that. No, I feel wrong course for that guy. Oh, this maybe I'll specify so it helps it out a little bit. This is the wrong college course. He moved on. All right. Okay, so then I put in this fake text, and it's going to have a whole problem with this. So I'm just going to keep ignoring all this. This is Latin. Whoops. Yeah. Until I get rid of all these red lines. You won't have this many problems, but I put in the Latin. This is standard fill text used in the industry. You'll see this again. Ipsum lat, whatever it's called, Ipsum. And when you're doing a website and you don't know what to write in there, you'll use this dummy text. That's where that came from. Okay, we're almost there. Boom. All right. So now use Control Enter. I'm going to ignore that problem. Use abundant screenshots. Okay, I'll go with them. Let's make it one word. See, some of it, it's not incredibly horrible, but it ends up making your page very consistent. At the bottom of the text box, and it wants me to put a comment in there. Okay, fine. Notice level 1 headers. I don't want to change that. Notice level 1 headers are 14 point. Don't want to change that. 12 point. Don't want to change that. We don't care about that. That's just fill text. Then first by first creating a text box, then inserting. Now, I like it the way it is, so I'm just trashing them. And I typed, if you remember while I was doing the video, I typed in some garbage in there. Doesn't know what that is. Just leave it in there. Just garbage. All right. And Grammarly. Okay, so let's go with screenshot down here. Okay. So boom, it went through all these things. And now what I need to do is find out how to download it again. I gotta find out where you download this. Okay. Oh, it's over here. Okay, so there's a download button up here in the upper left-hand corner. And we're going to export it. I click it. And it's going to put this word edited in the title. Notice that? So it's nice. It behaves. It's going to create a separate file so it doesn't overwrite your original. And it shoved the word edited into it. Okay. So I am going to go back to the correct folder, which was this final report instructions folder I have. Okay. And I'm just going to save it. And it says edited on there, right? So I'm going to save that. Okay, so I'll show you a little trick here. I can close my Grammarly. I'm all done with that. But before I do, what you want to do is take a screenshot of this. And I'm going to use my program that I talk about quite a bit. This is Snagit. Okay, I'll show you how you grab this. So this is Snagit. It's like snipping tool, only better. All right, so this is the thing that you want to just grab this. Grab some evidence that you put it through Grammarly like that. All right. It's too bad I didn't put the file name in there, right? Okay, so now from here I just do a Control C, and I'm going to go back over to my now what document I really want to work in is not the ones that I have up on my desktop, but I want to open the one that just got edited. Right, this is the one that just got edited. If I click on that, see, that's the one edited. So this is the one that came back from Grammarly. Okay, and then what I would do is, after allowing myself to edit this thing, is save as, and I'm going to save it with the name that I'm going to use to upload it on eClass. All right, so I'm going to get rid of the draft and the edited words in there. I hit enter. So it just saved it. Now if you look up here, you'll see the name. That's a nice clean name that I'm going to upload it with. So remember, my clipboard still has something on it, and I am going to come down here, make one last change. Be careful now. This is the point where things start going. If anything goes wrong, then appendix, whatever I said. I think it's A, B, C, D, E, I think E is Grammarly check. Grammarly check. Because I'm going to take your document and I'm going to send it through Grammarly. So I should find anything. If you don't find it, I will. All right. So I'm going to send it to Grammarly myself. Grammarly check. And what I'm going to do is insert the text box. Draw a text box. Right. I'm going to draw it. It's going to be off center and everything. I don't care yet. We're going to clean it up in a second here. Click inside the box. I click Control V, and it took my clipboard and it put it in there. It fit it into there, right? Okay. And the way that you want to format this is we're just going to use as much space as we can get our hands on. So I'm trying to grab the little handle there. It's not letting me grab the handle. I'm going to draw. See, I'm making the text box as big as possible. I'm going to stretch that out a little bit and probably find it. If you notice, it's hitting a green line right there. It's on the green line there on the left. Find the green line. I found the green line on the right. Okay. Before I do anything, you can see there's a carriage return here. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to put in here, Appendix E. If I think I have that letter correct. Appendix E is Grammarly check or something. Just Grammarly check. So that's what I want you to do. Now that we kind of you do things in stages here. I have some things that are set up. Now I'm going to make this bigger. So this is when I can make this bigger. All right. So I want to make it as big and legible as possible. And we're going to take a look down here. I made it so big it pushed the text below. You want to stay within the, oh, there's our text again, right? Okay, it's probably a good idea to take that text and center it. Okay, boom, we're done, right? So I had maximized the edges to reach the margins over there left and right. Okay, and I could just tell it's got your Grammarly sitting right there. We found 50 additional writing issues in this text available. Okay. So if you pay for it, you can find 50 more problems with it. Okay. But I just want everybody to give that, get used to that as a tool. It's a big outcome of a course like this is where you can start using Grammarly. I'm a fairly good writer, and when I put it through there, as you can just see, it really makes things consistent. I might have put in there checklist as 2 words and then checklist as 1 word. That's what Grammarly does really nicely with, is make sure that everything's consistent. It really bumps it up from 95% good to 98% good, a document, right? Okay, so now I can control save that. Never, don't forget which file you're working with, where it is, make sure you can find it and everything. And there, and you can upload it. So this was not a short video, but it's probably the best. I've done these about 3 or 4 times now. And after grading and after a number of cycles through semesters, you're seeing a refined version of what this looks like. And you're going to be in very good shape if you can do this. Document, write it up well, use figures in here well. You can use these figures. You're going to do screenshots, depending on what course we're taking here. This is a generic video. But we have heading 1, heading 2s in there. We have a table of contents. We know how to make a clean cover page here. I'm going to let it go with that. Why gild a lily? Hopefully this isn't too long. And of course, I always recommend in your browser, go back over to my browser here, wherever it went, inserting the video speed up. I'm going to hover over it so you can see up in the upper right-hand corner, it says Video Speed Controller has access to the site. Take your browser and find the plugin for, and I happen to be using whatever I'm using here. It's the Google one, right? And I can put that video speed controller in there. And when I watch videos, I can speed it up by 0.1 from, in increments of 0.1 from, I think it's like 0.5, like half speed, all the way up to 30, 40, 50. And it sounds crazy. Why would you want to do that? But if you're scooting through videos like this, even this one, you might find that you'll be able to listen to me in a much faster speed. But I do want to show, I keep recommending that people do that. Use video speed controller. Video speed control. If you just do a Google on video speed controller, it will come up as a plugin, and just plug it in if you feel coerced to do that, or not coerced, but motivated to do that. So there you go, Professor Peter Gregory here, and I hope all you students do really well on your final reports with this kind of layout.